Welcome to Operation Exchange. This episode is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
All right. So, Mandela Effect. Is it just false collective memories or is it something else? Scientists say it's false collective memories. Others want to know how so many can remember the same false memories. What do you think, Billy?
I think our memories are very unreliable, but there are some of these Mandela Effect things that, I have some memories of. Of course, I'm talking about my memories, but say the Berenstain Bears. I remember early in grade school having a conversation with a teacher about why it wasn't the Berenstain Bears, because my dad watched Seinfeld. So Sein, add the T in front of the EI, and I just figured it would be like Berenstain Bears. I never watched the TV show, Berenstain Bears TV show, so I was just looking at the title on the book, for the first time, and I mispronounced the name. But, she explained to me that it was a proper noun, so it was up to the author, how it would be pronounced ultimately. But Berenstain never came, into the conversation that I remember, that I recall.
Yeah, and I had several golden books that was Berenstain Bears, and I watched the show a lot, and it was always Berenstain to me. When I seen the Berenstain, I was like, no, that's not right.
Yeah, that seems to be one of them. There's a lot of them, like the Monopoly Man with the monocle. I did play a lot of Monopoly when I was younger. It was something that we played at my dad's house, and I don't remember. I definitely remember him having a monocle. I want to say he had a cane too, but then again, at that same time, we were exposed to a lot of commercials. The Planters Peanut Man that had, he definitely had the top hat. Sometimes he had a tuxedo on. He had
He had a cane.
Yeah, I think he even had a pocket watch out of his jacket whenever he was wearing one. It was so. Could we have been mixing that up, in our heads, and just falsely remembering the Monopoly Man having all that stuff? I don't know, but it does seem like the Monopoly Man had a monocle. That one eyepiece. And honestly, I always remember it being over his right eye, but whenever we see pictures of it, when people are reproducing it, it always seems to be over his left eye.
Yeah, and I don't have that distinct, left or right eye. I can, for whatever reason, my mind just goes to him having a monocle.
Yeah.
But,
and then you got people that have dressed up, bought Monopoly Man type adult costumes from these, not like a Walmart costume, but, like a costume from a costume shop. And it always comes with a monocle.
yeah.
And they take pictures of themselves all dressed up like Pennywise. Is that his name? Something like that. Or Rich, not Pennywise. That's it.
Yeah.
Rich Uncle Pennybags.
Yeah, there we go.
And it always has the vest and, the monocle, and sometimes people include a cane. But the Monopoly Man nowadays doesn't have a cane or a monocle.
Right. So it's a total different image than what a good portion of people have of the Monopoly Man growing up. So there's a couple of different theories around what could be causing this. And like I said, scientists believe it's just collective false memories. And then you've got some people that think it may be time traveling. Somebody's figured out how to go back in time. They make some minor changes to something, and it has these ripple effects into the future.
It's Barron Trump.
Barron Trump.
I want to talk about a couple of books. You dug up a book.
Yeah.
That we ordered last night, and it was called
Solar Bridge: The Unintended Consequences of Time Travel.
Yeah, and it's a fictional novel, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's it accounts a bunch of historical events, and one of those events was Nelson Mandela actually dying in prison, and this was published in 2005.
Yeah, August 1st.
And what was her name? Fiona Brown, or no, I'm sorry, Fiona Broom. Didn't she's the original one that posted something about the Nelson Mandela dying in prison when she was younger, and tons of people, like came
Like,
to her aid.
believe,
Was like,
I
yeah, that
remember
was
that.
yeah, I definitely remember that. His wife gave a speech and stuff like that. But talk about the time travel. It's kind of crazy. You got that. There's a book out there like. I don't remember the name of it, but it's got something to do with Barron Trump, like the voyages or the journey of little Barron
Yeah.
Trump and whatever. And he had like a teacher in the book named the Don, and there's even a guy in the book called Elon that visits Mars.
Right.
And this book was written in like 1890 or some shit like that. So like it's
way before modern time.
talk about time travel gaslighting, like. It's just it's interesting. Like if there has been somebody like that figures out the time traveling stuff, and maybe it hasn't happened yet as of 2025, but what if they figure it out in 2037, or some shit like that? They go back in time and they write a book and get it published, and it's all
telling what we're going to be encountering.
Yeah, and I haven't read the books, so I don't know the details in the books myself yet. We do have that one ordered, but I've not ordered the one about Barron Trump.
Right, but didn't you start listening to it on?
It was
an
very
audiobook?
Yes, I did. I started listening to it while I was on a trip going. I was on a 6 or 7 hour road trip, and I was trying to listen to it while I was driving, and I hate to. The narrator was kind of hard to listen to. It was like very monotone, and it was just I don't know.
It wasn't easy to keep up with.
Yeah, I was having difficulties listening to it, but I might have better luck reading it. I don't know, but there's a lot of fun things to think about. I don't know what side of the fence I fall on when it comes to this stuff. Conspiracy theorist always comes out, like when somebody starts talking about the Mandela Effect, they'll label you as a conspiracy theorist. And who's deciding to label you as a conspiracy theorist at what point in our modern times is kind of weird. I have an example. I don't, I'm not trying to get ultra political here because I'm not an ultra political person. But it's easy when you're in the middle to pay attention to what I call cults, the left cult and the right cult, and there's not a lot of people in between. Most people have chosen one army or the other. But I remember back in the 2010s, and this is going to seem very irrelevant, but I remember back in the early 2010s, I do mean like 2010, 2011, we had some ultra liberal friends that we used to hang out with, and by the way, I have voted liberal before, and I've definitely voted conservative before, but some of our ultra liberal friends were completely anti-vax, right?
Yeah.
And some of our red friends would call those people conspiracy theorists because our liberal friends felt like that all these vaccinations that were given to the kids, like for instance, when we were born in the 80s, we probably got like 15 or 20 vaccinations. I don't know the exact number, but now kids get hundreds of vaccinations
by the time they're 2.
Yeah, it's crazy. But and I'm not saying all those are bad. I'm just saying that's
a huge amount of increase.
And our liberal friends, they didn't want to vaccinate their children because they felt like there was a correlation with the rising autism
rates,
population. Yeah. So that's why they wanted to avoid it. You fast forward to 2019, and Trump is saying he's going to take the Moderna vaccine, and this is for COVID, right? And our liberal friends, the same liberal friends, they call us up and be like, "Do not take that, man. The orange man's trying to put a chip in you, or whatever, blah blah blah." And our red friends would call them conspiracy theorist.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And which was fine because I didn't want to take the vaccine anyway. That wasn't something that was on the agenda. I wasn't going to take it. I didn't care who was endorsing it. But you fast forward one more year, and all of a sudden, Joe Biden is supporting the vaccine, and those same liberal friends flip the script.
You've got to get it.
You got to get it. It's the best thing you can do for humankind, and quit being a ultra mega or ultra MAGA
Yeah.
asshat Nazi, and think about the old people, like so before it was my body, my choice. Then they flipped the script, and then
Then they were calling the Republicans conspiracy theorists because
that's right. Then the Republicans were conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, because there was a lot going around that it wasn't tested.
Yeah.
They didn't know the effects of this one. There was no time to test it. And so, for the same logical reasoning, both sides were calling each other conspiracy theorists over vaccines.
Within a decade. And it's what's sad about it is watching people's short memories and unreliable memories in real time, because some things that they would be totally against a decade ago, they're totally for now because of a political narrative.
Right.
And they don't even know it. They don't know it. Like it's and that goes for the red and the blue. Like there seems to be dynamic shifts. Like we've known politically that there's been dynamic shifts in the past. Like Lincoln was considered to be a very liberal and civil rights type of activist, and he was a Republican, which he would be more compared to like not really modern, but kind of like a JFK.
Yeah.
Which was a liberal. Andrew Jackson was a Democrat. And if he was alive today, he'd probably be way too far right wing to be a conservative.
Yeah.
Like he probably wouldn't get the popular vote. But anyway, he was the guy that was like, let's shut down the Federal Reserve. And the only reason I mention all this stuff, and I know it gets off track of the Mandela effect, but it's just trying to like shine some light on
how
the fact
social
that
interaction can change perspectives, memories.
social interaction can change. Yeah, can change your perspectives, and it can make something acceptable or non-acceptable, and it can make the other side look loony, depending on what side you're on at what given time in history.
Right. So, okay, so we gave you 2 examples of books that kind of show some time travel possibilities, well before modern time that we started talking about them. The Solar Bridge, The Unintended Consequences of Time Travel, that is by Joseph Moore, and it's based in Seattle. And then the Baron Trump book that he was talking about is the Baron Trump Collection, Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and His Wonderful Dog Bulger, Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, and The Last President.
The Last President.
And so it's filled with a lot of interesting tidbits.
Yeah, I need to read them. Like I don't know about all of the contents of these books, but I've heard people talk about them enough to understand that like there's some crazy stuff in them, but like it's still like I have not read them, like so I don't know firsthand.
Yeah, I'll give you this right here. It says the final book in the volume, so the one titled The Last President, discusses the rise of a U.S. president and has been variously described as either coincidental or like future telling of aspects of the 21st century political climate. It's set in America, torn by division. So, and very specific names come up in this.
It's weird.
So that's why people kind of like, hey, have y'all looked at this? And like we said, it was written in the 1800s.
Yeah.
So like just getting on the more light-sided end of the Mandela Effect, let's talk about some more of them that have kind of resonated with us. Like for me, I grew up, my dad, huge sci-fi fan, watched every episode of Star Trek and probably rewatched them a few times. Like my whole childhood was sci-fi.
Right.
And whenever I seen this Mandela Effect, I had to call him. But when Captain Kirk would need to be teleported either to a foreign world or back to the starship, like he would say something, beam me up, Scotty. Well, according to now. It never was said ever.
Where do we cook it up at?
Right.
Like, I mean, that was. I've never watched a complete episode of Star Trek. I've seen tidbits when I've been over your granddad's house, or whatever, because like your granddad and your dad,
Yeah.
both huge Star Trek fans. My brother's a Star Trek fan. You know, like Michael, he watches quite a bit of Star Trek, or he used to. But like, Beam Me Up, Scotty just wasn't pulled out of thin air.
No.
You know, like that was something that was that was definitely related to that show of some sort. Yeah. Star Wars was another one. You know, like you got Luke Skywalker. There's a
Darth
point.
Vader.
Yeah, was it the fifth movie? I don't know. I'm not an ultra fan of Star Wars either, but I think it was the fifth movie where Darth Vader says, "Luke, I am your father." That's not supposed to be what's been said either.
Yeah, now you go back and watch it, and it says, "No, I am your father."
No, I am your father. Like it's crazy because like if you, in the world of AI, we never know exactly what's real and what's not. But like you can find pictures of toys that people have supposedly had since the 70s or the 80s or whatever, and it'd be like Darth Vader, and you pull a string on it, and it says, "Luke, I am your father." You know, and this is supposed to be an official Mattel toy from the franchise from the 1970s. I don't know if that actually exists or not. But like, if it does, if it's not an AI thing, because like nowadays I question everything.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell what's real and what's been AI generated sometimes.
Yeah, lots of deep fake stuff, and it's really easy to just manipulate packaging and all. You know, like nowadays, like they counterfeit anything. Like, yeah, you can even order the Fruit of the Loom shirts with the cornucopia on it. You know, like. So like I can get online and I can order a Fruit of the Loom shirt with a cornucopia on it. And some people are daft enough to believe that it's Fruit of the Loom playing with us. It's Fruit of the Loom ain't got nothing to do with it. You get it on AliExpress because the Chinese know hey,
That
like, that this is a Mandela effect. Like that a large portion of our population believe that the Fruit of the Loom logo used to have a cornucopia on it, which is, I'm kind of one of them. I have to go back to grade school. But
I am.
Yeah, I have to go back to grade school, but like I still remember. Again, this is anecdotal because we're basing this off my memory, and I have no data to back anything up. But just if I was trusting my memory 100%, I want to say it was my fourth grade teacher was teaching us what a cornucopia was around Thanksgiving for some sort of art piece that we were going to do for our parents. We're supposed to be like painting something for our parents or whatever, or drawing something like that. Like, I don't remember all the specifics. But it seemed to me like that she used the Fruit of the Loom label to teach us what it was. At the same time, I know this was back in 1992. So how would she like enlarge that a logo? Because she couldn't project it on the wall like you mentioned. Not something she just could have looked up online because our schools didn't have internet back then. So, like, am I misremembering? Like, did she use something else? And I just thought it was the Fruit of the Loom logo. But
yeah, and why would you have made that connection even then? Like, say she drew it on the board.
Don't have a clue.
Cornucopia on the board. What made the connection to Fruit of the Loom?
Yeah, I mean, that was. I remember when the first time I'd heard anything about the Fruit of the Loom logo not having a cornucopia in it ever. I was like, bullshit, my fourth grade teacher.
Right.
Like, it's just, I went straight there, but that doesn't mean that memory is reliable. It could very well be just a memory that I've,
for some reason cooked up.
Well,
somehow.
Well, I mean, like, I'm not going to say I cooked up the entire memory, but I may have changed the details. My brain may have changed the details. It's kind of like the Sex and the City or, like title of that show. Which one is it really?
It's actually Sex and the City.
Sex and the City. So like, I think I just always called it Sex in the City. I've never watched an episode of it. I don't know anybody that watched an episode of it. But it just wasn't one of those things that was relative to me. That's
you heard about it a lot.
I did. Yeah. It was a huge show, man. I can't remember that. It was Sarah Michelle Parker was I believe was the actress that was the lead actress in that show. I don't know, But yeah, it was a big show on HBO, I believe.
Yeah.
Something like that. And it was, it was one of the shows you would have to pay to watch, or have to have a subscription or whatever,
Showtime
on cable or satellite or something, something to that extent. Not Netflix days, but like when it comes to a title like that, Sex in the City, like in and kind of sound the same, especially if you got 4 words to say really quickly. So
right.
like there's a mass, to me, it's a great possibility. There was a mass amount of people that just said Sex in the City, Sex in the City, Sex in the, I mean, in fact, the letter N.
Maybe not precisely in or and, just
Yeah. I mean, it's like Bone Thugs and Harmony, like the N is there. Like they just use the letter N, and it, I don't know, man.
And
like,
Mike and Ike's is another one like
Mike
that.
and Ike's,
like
yeah.
there's a lot of people that remember it being Mike and Ike's, but it's always been and written down sideways in between it. But people just say Mike and Ike's.
Yeah. And everybody knows Mike's never been an Ike. I mean, we don't assume Mike's been an Ike because of the candy, but it's just a way to shorten the title. But I'm waiting on something from the Mandela Effect that I have absolutely no argument with. In order for me to be 100% on board with this thing, I need somebody to say, you remember that song Led Zeppelin come out with in 1960 or 79, called Stairway to Heaven? And I'm like, yeah, I remember that. Like, no, you don't, because it never existed. Or it was called Stairway and the Heavens or some shit like that. And I'm like, no, like if something like that was so unquestionable, something would have to occur that was undeniably inaccurate in order for me to be able to, I'm 100% on board with this Mandela Effect being a real thing, because everything else I'm having to like depend on my memory, and I would have to depend on my memory with Stairway to Heaven too, but it was much more
influential.
To me, it was, I've had every Led Zeppelin album that's ever existed on vinyl, probably on CD, and a lot of them on cassette. Led Zeppelin was a huge band in my life. And what's crazy is I really don't care anything about them anymore.
Right.
I've kind of grown out of them, and I don't. If a song comes on the radio, awesome, but I don't usually go out of my way to listen to Led Zeppelin anymore. Not that the band changed. I just probably burned myself out on them.
Right. Speaking of that, we were just talking about one the other day that you're not sure if your memory was failing you or if something has happened there, but it was Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam.
And the video for Jeremy.
Okay. Yeah. If anybody's listening, I told Courtney, we were talking about school shootings, or how did this start? What was the band?
Actually Kaleo come out with a song called USA Today. It's on a new album. There's very few that have been released on Spotify yet, this actual song tracks. But that was one of them that had, and it was another song about shootings.
Yeah,
and we got to talking about artists and using the platforms, sometimes to push agendas, sometimes to try to make awareness. And it led to us talking about Jeremy, which he informed me was about a school shooting.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It was where you have all these artists that push this agenda about the anti-gun thing because of all the school shootings. I said, but it's crazy because Pearl Jam, maybe one of the most political bands that I've ever watched live. Whenever I watched them live in Nashville, back in May of 2003, this guy come out dressed up like George W. Bush, just trying to piss off the entire audience. Half of the people got up and walked out. I didn't really care that much, so I stuck around to watch it. But if media, if it's their job to push the agenda for anti-gun rights because of school shootings or whatever, I think it deserves a look into that. The 1991 song Jeremy was about a school shooting, and the video backed it up. Jeremy, and all right, so in my mind, and I've seen this video thousands of times.
He's a huge Pearl Jam fan.
I used to be a very huge and nothing's really changed except for the fact that I don't really care for what they come out with anymore. It's kind of like the Smashing Pumpkins. The first 3 or 4 albums I'm cool with. After that, like they're not recording things I want to listen to anymore. So I'm growing, they're growing, something, something's happening there.
Growing different directions.
Yeah. We went in different directions. I had to break up with Eddie Vedder. He didn't even know. But the thing is like in my memory, when I'm watching that Pearl Jam video, in my head when I was a kid, man, and that's all me and my brother Steven, we just left the TV on MTV unless there was a good baseball game on. But the
Channel 15 for me.
Dude, I don't even remember what channel it was. I just know, that it was on MTV all day. And this was back when MTV played videos damn near all day. Like there was very little disturbance, on that. Like
for all the
But I remember
reality.
I remember a video. It starts off with a kid. He's drawing on a piece of paper. He's drawing this lemon yellow sun, which is something we can get into later.
Yeah.
But he's drawing this lemon yellow sun. He's on top of a mountain. He's got his arms raised up in a V. I mean, like the picture that he's drawing is matching the lyrics. So this kid feels like he's finally won something. And it's a good day. It's a bright day. But he's got all this like these other kids around the mountain, and they're all like just laying in puddles of blood. But there's inserts of the video where it would cut in and out of a classroom. And I remember there being a blackboard and there's a teacher up front standing beside the blackboard, maybe even writing on the blackboard. I can't, maybe not remembering that good, but like Jeremy's sitting down in a seat. At some point he pulls a sawed off 12 gauge or a shotgun out of his bag. It doesn't ever show him actually shoot anybody, because that probably would have cost a lot of money in production to fake that shit. But it does show the aftermath. These kids just laying all over the classroom around these desks, like covered in what looks like blood. So like this would have happened. This video would have come out and been available to us in 1991, which is what, 7 years before Columbine?
I don't quote me on that.
I don't. Yeah, me neither. But I mean, look it up.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to. We got a computer here. But if it was just something like I'm remembering a video that Pearl Jam had from the Jeremy song that was way more brutal than what we're finding now when we start looking up the official video for Jeremy. I might be misremembering that, but I don't think so. And as far as I know, this isn't a Mandela effect either. Like I haven't heard anything else about it. What year was it?
1999.
1999. So 8 years. 8 years before, like even if the video come out a year after
it was recorded,
after the song was released on 10, because they do that, like I'm sure the very first song that got a music video off of 10 would probably have been Alive. That was the
number, like the big track on that one.
That song right there saved them from getting their tour canceled. Because like anyway, we could talk all day about Pearl Jam, but that's the video that I remember. I remember a very gruesome video. Courtney didn't remember it at all. I told her to look it up. And she started scouring YouTube, and she can't find the video.
And another interesting tidbit that I just like come to me from watching it. You're saying you can remember the sawed-off shotgun, but the only thing it shows in the video is him going from having crayons in his hand as like an innocent child to 3 rifle bullets in his hand.
Rifle bullets. Okay,
rifle bullets.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
But it's like, did that video get changed after Columbine? Because by the time 1999 got here, I was 16 years old, and I wasn't concerned about watching videos anymore. And
MTV didn't have videos anymore.
Yeah, if they did, I wasn't really concerned about sticking around the house and watching them, man. I was 16 years old. I was like, I was losing track with media because I started living my life and riding around with my buddies and getting into trouble. Getting into whatever we could get into. It might be trouble. But, so if the video was changed after Columbine, I could see Eddie doing something like that. Like, like hey, man, the sensitivity of this actual school shooting, we're going to change the video. This isn't something that I've done a lot of homework in. We just actually literally yesterday we're just trying to find this old video and coming up empty-handed. You know, there's a lot of videos that claim to be official, and they're close, but no cigar.
Right.
From what I remember, you know. And I guess my only point there, you know, like the point I was trying to make with her didn't have anything to do with the Mandela effect. It was, you know, like rock and roll as much as I love it, may have given people the first thoughts of school shootings. You know, the bands that we love may have actually put that into somebody's mind, because the videos, you know, that video. And even if, listen, take the video out of the equation, the song is still about a school shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's about.
I just found it interesting because we're talking about how memories with this Mandela Effect stuff can be altered somehow or seem different. And that was like one of those instances. The video's very different from what you remember it.
Yeah.
And that would be the same reaction that people, whenever they're realizing some of these Mandela effects, are like, what the crap? No. Like, am I crazy? I know I remember this. And it's not there to find anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's how I get started. You know, like, I'm not trying to start anything here,
right?
But this is the way I remember it. If anybody else remembers it, get in touch with us. Let us know, man. But if you were around back then, and man, I've got several friends that I can count on. I can contact them. I just haven't done it yet. But I got several friends that I can contact and ask them what they remember about the Jeremy video. And if they all remember the same video that I remember, then maybe they have some intel on as to whether, you know, the video was changed. But if it hadn't been changed,
like officially, and anybody know about it,
then this will be a personal Mandela effect for me.
Right.
Because like I have literally seen that video hundreds of times, amongst others. Yeah, I mean, like, literally, like, you know, until we could drive, you know, we were MTV, and I mean, at least after dark.
Yeah.
You know, because we were usually outside playing, you know, with neighborhood kids, skateboarding, riding bikes, doing whatever we were doing. You know, like a lot of times we'd just be riding bikes at the comic book store, or the baseball card store, or whatever, you know, and blowing our money that we made by, you know, mowing yards or raking leaves or whatever whatever we were doing to make money as kids. You know, we would spend our time outside, but
in the afternoons.
In the afternoons, man, when we had to be home, dude, I've seen that video. It wasn't like I remember seeing that video once. No, I mean that video overplayed. That video played. It was right around the same time as like Inner Sandman. You know, like, I mean, in fact, it was those two albums were released in the same year. Metallica Black and Pearl Jam 10 were both released in 1991. So like Inner Sandman and Jeremy were like, those videos were alternating with Alice in Chains, Wood, and, you know, like, it's just, you know, like, I could probably put together a playlist of things that were coming out in 1991.
And it's probably hard for like younger population that may be listening to this to grasp the whole replaying of the popular videos on a TV channel, because it's not something that, like,
it was a big deal to us.
Right.
Man. We had music videos.
Like, yeah, I mean, and it was what we watched. It wasn't, and it eventually turned into reality TV on MTV, which is now more typical of what people would watch these days than actual music videos that were produced for specific songs on albums.
Bro, this was 9 Inch Nails, Head Like a Hole. This was Soundgarden, Outshined. You know, I mean, even though I think Outshine did come out like a year before. I think it was coming out in like 1990 or something like that. This is a birth of grunge. But like 9 Inch Nails, Head Like a Hoe, his head banging and his hair is going backwards. You know, like, that's how it starts off. Like, I mean, I can remember the details of some of these videos that I haven't seen in years. You know what I mean? And like, but at the same time, can I still trust my own memory?
Right.
And that's the scary part, just because you can't. But like, if it was something that was so absolute, if it was something that you were like for instance, you know, I used to be in a cover band. Well, you know, we wrote our own songs too, but we played a lot of Alice in Chains songs. And if you told me like the lyrics in Nutshell weren't the lyrics in Nutshell that I know, like, there would be problems, because I know, you know, like I I've played that song 1,000 times on the guitar. You know, like so I know I 110% know that there's only 2 verses to Nutshell, and I know every single word to that song. You know, it's not a complicated song. But if somebody said, "No, man, Nutshell had 3 verses and a chorus," I'm like, "No, it did not."
Right.
No, yeah. But anyway, let's get back to the Mandela effect.
So all that just being like to show how everyday things sometimes like have you questioning your memory
And your sanity.
and where memories come from. So another one that like really got me was Mr. Rogers. I watched that every day. Probably watched every one of the episodes. And it was always, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And now they're saying, no, it's always been, it's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. Try singing that. Just try to sing it with this in there.
Yeah.
It doesn't come out right. Like it doesn't flow. Something seems off.
And this is one of them that I don't know. I did watch Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood when I was younger, but like not to the point where I'm confident enough to say one way or the other. But I can, in my opinion, I think "the" would be a much easier word to replace. Like it would just be a word that we would stick in the place of "this," just to make the song ring out, you know, and flow better.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, as you know, regardless as to what the original lyrics actually are.
Yeah.
But,
So one of those words, sometimes like replacing "the" or and "in," stuff like that, little filler words, the prepositions and the
but this is a pretty hardcore word.
yeah.
I mean,
It doesn't have the same effect.
it really don't, does it? I mean, it's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. It's a beautiful day for a neighbor, or whatever,
Right.
whatever it says. Like, yeah, it definitely rings out different than it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It's just the neighborhood. Like it just comes out.
Yeah, yeah.
So that one kind of got me. And anybody watching or listening, the name of the main gremlin in the movie Gremlins. Now you'll have to be older or really like going back and watching old movies to
This is again
relate to this one.
I can't relate to this one because like I was probably just watching Pearl Jam videos.
Yeah. Well, I watched it a few times. I even had like Gizmo stuffed animals and stuff.
Gizmo's the good one, right?
Yeah, Gizmo was the good one. The villain's name was Spike. And now they're trying to tell us his name has always been Stripe.
Stripe, like a stripe down a skunk's back.
Yes, like Stripe. Now, this was another one that whenever I was on the phone with my dad over the Star Trek one, I was like, all right, I got another one for you. And my mom was like listening on speakerphone. I said, what was the name of the main gremlin in the movie Gremlins? And they both, at the same time, like no hesitation, Spike.
Interesting.
And it's like, how does everybody remember that wrong?
Yeah.
And there's a lot.
Ed McMahon and the money.
Oh, God.
Like we called your mom about that one as soon as we heard about it. This was years ago. It was probably at least 2 years ago, something like that. When we heard about the Ed McMahon Publishing Clearinghouse and stuff like that, and we're like, no, that's I don't even. We found out what the guy's name was, but like. There's been episodes on The Simpsons. There's been episodes on Golden Girls. There's been all kinds of episodes where even, you know, these recording agencies that probably work with Ed McMahon have gotten it wrong. You know, like I think Dorothy from Golden Girls had a line and something like, "What are you waiting on?"
Betty White, her character.
Oh, okay. It was Betty White said something about you waiting on Ed McMahon to pop up, and with a big check or some shit, and like so even Hollywood or whoever is producing these things, you know, got these details wrong, and you know, supposedly, you know, like I don't know a damn thing when it comes to the Ed McMahon and the Publishing Clearinghouse. I remember bits and pieces of it, but like it wasn't a mainstay or a staple in my key memories, you know. And I think that's a thing, right? Because like there's so many of these things that, you know, I remember a little bit of, but none of them's like key staples in my memories, like things that were important to me.
Yeah, and like another instance of TV shows getting this Mandela effect wrong is Friends. There's an episode where they're talking back and forth, the girls, and Phoebe goes, "Yeah, it'll be like you come into his life, it'll be like Ed McMahon, but without the check." Like she says it.
And Ed McMahon was part of American Family Publishers, and I've never even heard of that. What the fuck is that? Like it seems like the commercials that I do remember about Ed McMahon would be like, I'm Ed McMahon. Mm-hmm. Oh, la, 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 we're gonna bring you a check. American Publishing Company or whatever that was that he did work for that didn't even give away big checks.
Well, and not just that, but he's been shown, like he has said that he backed this American Family Publishers, but he was never on camera for them. Like he promoted them, but he did not go and do checks.
Right. And what about Shaggy's apple, Adam's apple? Like they say that Shaggy never had an Adam's apple. Like he's got this big long neck, and it seems to me like I remember whenever he would get scared while he was eating something, especially or whatever. He was always eating shit, right?
Yeah,
like,
and they definitely animated that, like the big sandwiches going down his throat.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking about.
I don't know, but I definitely remember. It seems like when he go, "Yikes!"
and his Adam's apple would go all the way up and down his throat.
Yeah,
like both. It would go all the way down, and it would come all the way back up.
Yeah, like he was swallowing his throat.
Well, that's what I remember. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what I remember.
There's a whole lot of people that remember him having an Adam's apple.
But regardless of what we remember, Shaggy never had an Adam's apple, according to the internet.
Right, and then there's the Disney.
Tinkerbell.
Yeah, the Disney intro. Whenever Walt Disney and the castle comes up, a lot of people remember Tinkerbell flying over the castle. There's a couple of variations of this one. Like there's a group of people that remember like the words Walt Disney popping up with the castle, and then Tinkerbell flying over the castle, leaving her little fairy dust and dotting the I.
Yeah.
And then there's others like myself that can remember Tinkerbell coming out with her little sparkle wand and like writing out the letters of Walt Disney.
I think I remember both of them, man. But I don't know. That's crazy, isn't it? Like, do we have to choose? Because like it seems like I remember both of them. Like, but I don't know. I have no clue. But I definitely remember a fairy, if it wasn't Tinkerbell, coming out and dotting that I for sure, 100%. And like writing the name out in cursive definitely sounds familiar too. But so does like flying over the castle. One thing I'm certain of is I'm well.
One thing you remember.
Yeah, one thing I remember is Tinkerbell being involved in that intro.
Yeah,
or at least a fairy.
And now they're saying no, Tinkerbell has never been part of that.
Does that go for all fairies? Like, if it wasn't Tinkerbell, could we just mistaken it for another fairy?
No,
or they're just saying like it's
never been a thing.
It's just always been the plain Jane Walt Disney thing that they got now.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I buy into that.
Right.
That might be key enough. Like, not that I'm a Disney buff. I'm not, but I want to say I remember like we went and saw a Disney movie in the theater, and I can't remember which one it was, but was it a Pirate of the Caribbean? Or something
I believe
like
so. It's like, why is that popping up? It's
yeah,
because it's a Disney produced.
Right, and I was like, I didn't know that was a Disney movie. You know, that was the thing. Like it was like what is this Tinkerbell thing? Are we in the right? You know, are we in the right theater? But anyway, yeah, my memory may be failing me, but yeah, I definitely remember a fairy.
Yeah, I can remember Tinkerbell flying across there, writing out the letters.
Got stuff that I don't have a clue about, like the Kit Kat bar. You know, like there's a lot of these are old, y'all. You know, like I mean, like I'm sure they've been covered and beat to death by lots of folks, but if for no other reason, I'm bringing my Pearl Jam thing into it. But the Kit Kat bar, I don't know if it ever had a dash in between the kit and the cat. I never paid attention. It wasn't a candy bar I really ever give a rat's ass about. You know, like it's not that if somebody picked me up a Kit Kat bar and brought it back to me while they were going to the store, like if you picked me up a Kit Kat bar, cool, I'll eat it. Right. I don't have anything against them.
Not inspecting the labeling though.
No, not looking at the package. You know, it's like Skechers with the T or without the T. I don't know. I've had a lot of Skechers in my
Me too.
lifetime, and I've never looked at the spelling. I've never paid attention to the spelling enough.
Not even on the outside of the box, like, which, you know, there's a lot of, I'm sure y'all have seen these on social media, but especially Facebook, like they've gone around a lot on there, but where there's a bunch of, they've got a passage for you to read, and the first and last letters will be in the right spot. Everything else will just be jumbled up mess in the middle.
Yeah.
And ask you if you can read it.
Yeah.
Well, it's proven that our brains will fill in the rest of that if it's and make sense of it. If you can identify, it's a 5-letter word, starts with this letter, ends with this letter, and the next word is this. Like,
yeah, when people ask me what kind of IQ I have, I always tell them I'm 126 because of the Facebook post that says, if you can read this, and it'd be like this be spelled like with a 7 and an H and a 1 and a 5, you know?
yeah.
And it's like, if you can read this, then you have IQ of 126 or above. And I'm like, okay, I'm 126. I'm right there with Snoop Dogg. I'm good.
So yeah, so there's definitely evidence that we can fill in words without like really looking at them letter for letter. So if we have advertisements, especially back when Skechers were becoming a thing, there was commercials all the time. And we grew up listening to commercials in between 5 minutes of show, 3 minutes of commercial, 5 minutes of show. So you had plenty of commercials. If we heard Skechers, all right, that's what the name of it is. And then we go to buy a pair of Skechers in the store, we're probably not inspecting what each letter of that word is.
We weren't inspecting the T because we were, you know, it's the S.
Skechers.
It's Skechers.
There's
it's
a CH.
It's the
and
S.
there's S and S.
Yeah.
Like,
Do you remember that being the slogan?
the
Skechers. It's the S. Not paid anyway. Like, you know, so like, you know, they're not giving us any money.
right.
Anyway.
But so like ones like that, I can see just being okay, it was a weird spelling that we would assume by the way you say it, Skechers. It sounds like there should be a T in there. You
The
assume
word
there's a T in there.
sketch
Yeah.
has a T in it.
Right. So we assume there's always supposed to have been a T in there. I can see that one being easily debunked.
Yeah.
But there's other ones that there's just a lot of people that distinctly remember things being a total different way.
And kind of like my Pearl Jam thing, there's a lot of Queen fans out there that absolutely remember like "We Are the Champions" ending with a very long, strong, like drawn out of the world. You know, at the very end of the song, like he does say "of the world," "We are the champions of the world," but you know it's in the middle of the song and it's followed by "My friend." You know, like
Quickly.
it's not long and drawn out, but like I somewhat remember, you know. Of the world.
And then like the music fades out.
Yeah.
And the vocal's still going.
And then it goes into the next Queen song because they always play 2 back to back.
Right.
Always play 2 back to back.
So yeah, that's examples that it's hard to prove to someone, no, that's not what you remembered. When it comes to ones like that, they're not easily manipulated with other data and statistics.
Right.
Kind of like E.T. Phone Home.
Okay.
For me, I watched it several times. It was always E.T. Phone Home. He'd stick his finger up in there, it'd glow. And now they're trying to say it's E.T. Home Phone.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've ever watched E.T. all the way through. We can, but like I do remember like when I was a kid, Mac and Me was an alien movie that was, I don't know if it come out around the same time as E.T., but like that movie for whatever reason, it was one of the, like every time my parents rented movies, they'd have to rent me Mac and Me. I was
And I don't think I ever watched that.
just stuck on this movie, man. But yeah, E.T. I'm not very familiar with it, but I never heard the phrase home phone until cell phones started becoming popular. Like,
Right.
yeah, here's my cell phone number. Here's my home phone number. You know,
Yeah, and like it was a common phrase from that movie. Like people ET phone home. Like
do we remember the girl's name that came out with the YouTube video of the 5-part
Jesse V.
Jessie V, like Jessii. Last name is Vee. And this is interesting because you know, she's got a 5-part Mandela Effect video compilation where she's come out with all these videos independently over the years, but she put them all in one video. At the very beginning of the video, or not the very beginning, but like in part 1 of the video, she's talking about the thinker statue. And she said, I'm an art student, or I was an art student. I really wish I could find my old painting that I did of the thinker statue because, you know, I
and it's
painted
the thinking man.
The thinking man.
Statue,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And you know, like I painted him with his fist up underneath his chin, you know, but now his hand is all flimsy
and limp
and just sitting there. And 3 years later, she comes out with part 4, part 5, or something like that. And so this is all can be found in the same compilation video. If you want to go check it out, we may be able to leave a link below if you're viewing on YouTube. I'm not sure about Spotify, if we can leave links in Spotify. But the thing is like later on in that same video, just a few years later, you know, she said, I'm an art student, and I always remembered the thinking man with his fist on his forehead, and that's the way I painted him, you know, and if I could find my painting. And so this girl actually like contradicted herself, and I'm not beating her up, but that just goes to show how manipulated we can allow our memory to be.
And what was going on at the start of that compilation video during the time she was doing that section of recording, everybody was talking about how it moving from a fist to a limp hand under the chin. Well, then by the 3 years later, there's a lot of people there saying they remember it with the fist to his forehead instead of the limp hand. And so like she's seeing all this, and then she's saying, yeah, that's the way I drew it. His fist was on the forehead. So it's like there's controlled tests that they've done in science that would try to explain how the Mandela effect happens. One of those is taking an image or a line from a movie, changing it, showing the person this new image, or saying the new line to the person from the movie. And then a year or two later, going back a few months later, however long they want the time between to be, but go back and ask the person, how was this? Which image is correct? And they would choose whether it was their old memory or an altered one from being exposed to a new image
later
that has like affected their memory of what was reality. Or like a big movie that a lot of people would know is Dirty Dancing. It's iconic. There's a line.
To you.
Well, to a lot of people. But there's a line in that movie where he says, no one puts baby in the corner.
Yeah, I remember that.
You've never even watched it.
I remember that. I remember people saying that.
Right. Okay.
I think I've even said it whenever I'm vocalizing the voice for the dog. And you're like, you're getting on to him for something.
Right.
Like, nobody putting baby in the corner, you know.
Right. So like that is an iconic line of that movie.
It never got said?
No, it did.
Okay.
But if they went and said, no, it wasn't said, this is what was said in one of those experiments, and then go back later and see if they had a different memory of what was said in that movie, that would be something that's like most people would know for sure that have watched that movie. It's an iconic line from that movie. If you go and try to alter it, it would be interesting to see the difference. Like, would it actually alter?
Only I put baby in the corner.
Right. Or
something like that.
Yeah. Any change to it, but
nobody puts baby under the table.
Right. There you go. And see if down the road they're like, no, it's something about a table, not in the corner. Like,
yeah.
So that there's studies that they do to try to show how these false collectives work. My only problem with that is like, okay, that's that seems to work in isolation. But how do you get everyone
How
to
is there
have the
80,000
altered
people that have the
memory,
same
right,
altered memory?
of a specific thing? You don't have every one of us sitting in a room as participants in a study.
Maybe all it takes is one stranger bringing it up as being wrong, and the rest of us are so willing to change our views. Oh my God, that's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
The human race is scary. Like that, we're so willing to change our belief systems over what our peers are believing because we want to fit in.
Yeah. And
Wow.
we see it happen with like memes that come out. Be like, this happened and so-and-so did this and this and this. And then everybody starts sharing that. And then you finally go and look at it and it's like, that didn't really happen.
That didn't happen.
But if you don't take the time to go research and see if it really did happen, it's how memories start forming. Like I remember whenever this happened, blah, 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 blah,
yeah.
blah.
We've seen lost dog post, like they were like, this dog was lost in this neighborhood, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And, the name of a city and a state. And really, it was a real post from 4 or 5 years ago.
In a total different area.
It was a total different state and a total different neighborhood and all that stuff. And people just put it out.
Or like somebody's missing. I hate that whenever they do this child was found behind a dumpster at the blah, blah, blah. And it'll give a town and crap. And like, that's the type of stuff though. Like people share it thinking they're doing something good.
Yeah.
To try to get word out that there's this missing child in the area.
A child was found and is now working at Arby's.
Right.
Like it was so long ago.
And it's stuff like that's easy for people to believe and start passing around as real information that may actually cause a collective false memory of stuff.
Yeah.
So like there's aspects of it that I can see both ways. There's some stuff like the train bombing that happened in Italy. Train exploded. A clock that's on the tower right by the train rails stopped at 10:25 a.m.
This is baloney.
Yeah, Bologna. It's Bologna.
It's baloney. My baloney has a first name.
Oh God.
Oscar. Has a last name. It's Meyer. Which one do you remember? Is it Meyer? Mayer? Is it Mayer or Meyer? Go ahead.
I remember Meyer, but so like the clock stopped at 10:25 a.m. when the bombing happened, and for 15 years, people that lived in this town seen the clock on a regular basis, swear the whole 15 years after the bombing that it had always been at 10:25 a.m., that it never got fixed.
So after the bombing, they just never fixed that clock.
That's what 92% of the population
That's a big
claims.
Number of the population. How many people live in Bologna?
I don't know, but it doesn't matter if it's 200 or if it's 5,000.
That's true.
92% all believe in the same thing.
Yeah.
It's almost the whole population.
So 8% of the people can't be fooled.
Right.
Like that's a very small percentage of the population that are like everybody else is on some shit.
But what brought it up was the fact that they went back and set the clock permanently to 10:25 a.m. as a memorial for the ones that had died in that bombing. This occurred 15 years later.
Okay.
And whenever they were doing this, saying they were permanently stopping the clock at 10:25 as a memorial, that's when people were like, what are you talking about? It's been stopped at 10:25 since it happened. This included 21 train workers.
Oh, you can't fool all those train workers
that had been working there that whole time that were like, no, it has been at 10:25 the whole time.
Out of all those train workers, were any of them conductors that said it's been at 10:25 the entire time?
I'm not sure. I just know it was
we need to find
train
out.
station employees.
If you were a conductor in Bologna, France,
Italy,
in this time frame, and you want to come on the show and talk to us about this clock, you're invited. Oh yeah, send a email to Operation Exchange, Op Exchange,
yeah, Exchange Pod
at gmail.com. Come on and talk to us about it.
But with instances like that, it's not just lyrics to a song you may have heard wrong, or replacing in and in place of one another,
Yeah.
like simple things that are easy to be explained away. One like that where you've got 92% of a population that are looking at a physical item that they swear has been stuck at 1025. Now, I work as a teacher. We have big analog clocks in our rooms. When they quit working, you notice that crap. Like, it's just one of those things. When you're used to a clock being there and it's not keeping time anymore, you notice it.
Yeah.
So telling 92% of the people in this community or town, city, that they're all crazy, that it's been working just fine for 15 years, that's harder to explain away.
Yeah, it is. And it's also harder to explain away than a lot of these other Mandela Effect things that typically are revolved around people's childhood.
Yeah.
Berenstain Bears. You got the Fruit Loops thing or Looney Tunes thing. And then you got like Curious George, did he ever have a tail thing? Like that.
And Mickey Mouse having a tail. A lot of people thought he didn't.
Or the shape of the tail of the other character, Snoopy.
Yeah.
Like, so all this stuff really revolves around people having to depend on their childhood memory.
Yeah, it'd be like one coming up that Garfield was never orange. He was a brown cat.
We said we get into the lemon yellow sun thing. Do what now? Just a second.
I'm saying like that's not one.
Okay,
I'm
I was
just
gonna say,
saying
like,
like it would be about the same difference. Changing minute little things that you're not quite sure how your child brain remembered it.
Right. I was gonna say if they're saying Garfield was brown, fuck them.
It's definitely orange.
Yeah.
But
But we said we'd talk about the lemon yellow sun when we were talking about Pearl Jam earlier. And there's actually a Mandela effect about people.
The color of the sun.
Yeah, we're not talking about sunsets and we're not talking about sunrises. We're just talking about the sun when it's straight up in the sky when you're not supposed to be looking at it anyway. But they say the high noon sun is white, and it's always been white. And man, I can't argue because I've never looked at a high noon sun.
I mean, if I have looked up and the sun being my eyes, it's not something that you can really focus on to get a color. But I do know, like, when you're in school, you're always taught you color the sun yellow.
Yeah.
You draw the sun yellow.
Lemon yellow sun.
So, like, there's definitely a correlation somewhere where people started calling the sun yellow when that happened. I have no idea. Everybody is taught the sun's yellow whenever you're drawing it in elementary school.
Seem the harmless little fuck.
But, so that's one that I don't really know, because if you try to look at the sun with your naked eye with no kind of shield over it, you're probably not going to get a real accurate observation of the sun.
But we unleashed the lion. All right. Yeah. I would think that if you were like to look at the sun high noon, and all you're going to get, you're just going to see white anyway.
Yeah, and your eyes are going to water, and you're going to blink, and you're going to look away.
And like, if you don't, you're probably going to go blind.
Right. So, like, ones like that, I don't know. Like, there's different shades of grass, too, but we're all taught in school that grass is just green. But you've got some bluish shade
in
grasses. And, yeah, you do.
Yeah, blue in Kentucky.
And you've got some grasses that have purple through them, like purple through the leaves. It's relevant comparison.
Yeah.
That not everything that you're taught in primary colors in elementary school is the way real life is.
Hey, not everything you're taught in school is the way life is anyway.
Right.
Like, I mean, like, really talking about this like holistic thing. We got this Mushroom Monday thing coming up, and like we're just talking about like all the money we spend killing all of the good stuff in our yards. Like,
because we're taught that we don't want weeds in our yards.
Yeah, you don't want dandelions in your yard. You don't want clover in your yards. All this stuff's like edible.
A lot of the stuff we call weeds are actually very beneficial plants.
Yeah, like every part of a dandelion can be eaten and
full of nutrients.
And some people make a wine out of it and stuff like that. But like, yeah, like, and I'm not saying school teaches us to use Roundup.
No, but it's just stuff we're taught growing up.
Yeah, it's you can live off that stuff where you can't really live off fescue and Bermuda, but I mean, it's prettier. But that's why that stuff's in yards anyway. That stuff's in yards because like that stuff is
supposed to be able to be grown to make bread out of.
Yeah, shit like that. I don't know about that specific type of wheat, but yeah, that's why grass. We do a whole episode on grass and why everybody just needs to go ahead and get a concrete yard.
No, because then you wouldn't have your backyard medicine either.
How much of it have you used? How much
Shut
of our
up.
backyard?
If
have
we
you
had
used?
to, though, we could.
But how much of it have you?
If we had to, we could.
Have you ever got it out there?
All right, we're off the topic. All right, so any other ones you want to bring up, Mandela Effect wise?
Curious George had a tail. We've already kind of touched on that, but like am I the only one that remembers Curious George like hanging from a tree and stealing stuff? And in one specific book, and then like he has to give the stuff that he stole back at the end because that was what the moral of the story was.
The cartoon, he did it a lot too.
In the cartoon, he did it as well. Okay, I don't know. I feel like he had a tail.
The only explanation I can give for like debunking that one is maybe he was swinging by one arm and grabbing with the other arm.
No, he was hanging down.
I agree. Like I seem to remember a tail, but
he may have
just
been
being devil's
down.
advocate.
He could be hanging down from his back legs.
Yeah.
That could have been a thing, and we just assumed we just painted in our
because most
head.
monkeys have long tails. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they use them to hold on to the tree limbs, but
right.
But like, yeah, just devil's advocate. Another one of those that possibly could have an explanation that's plausible.
Right. All right. Anything else you want to bring up?
The only other one that come up recently during our research was the Three Little Pigs.
Okay.
And in the Three Little Pigs, the wolf goes, "I'll huff, I'll puff, I'll blow your house
down."
And I say in.
Yeah.
It's in the books now.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people that remember it being blow your house down, like Billy says.
Well, it's the same thing. It's probably another replacement of words.
Mm-hmm.
It's one syllable word. Both of them end in, and they kind of make the same sound respectively. But the action. If you're gonna tell your friend, like if you had plans with your friend, but all of a sudden your plans had to be canceled because you had you got somebody come and knocked on your door and said, "I'll give you $500,000 if you go knock that house down."
Yeah.
Then you would probably call your friend and be like, "Hey, listen, man, this guy's gonna let me borrow a bulldozer, and he's gonna, my afternoon plans have changed because I've been making $500,000 by knocking a house down." You wouldn't say knocking the house in. I don't think. We're gonna knock this house in.
Yeah, you're gonna take a wrecking ball and knock it in or knock it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in does rhyme with the rest of the thing. Little pig, let me in. Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in.
Right. So it makes sense that it's there. I think my brain and a lot of other people's brains probably just replace that word because it conversationally what's the word I'm looking for? If we were just talking in a conversation and we were talking about knocking a house down, we probably wouldn't ever
say knocking a building in.
Yeah, yesterday I was just knocking. Did you see him knocking down the tire, or did you see him knocking in the?
Right.
It's just it just doesn't phonetically make sense. So
yeah, and especially in adult brains where you're like looking at stuff from like demolition perspective.
That's
and
right.
Wrecking balls, like that wasn't part of the children's books. It's very kid based. So yeah, that's like some of the interesting major ones that I found. The only other thing I would like to throw in there that's not necessarily Mandela Effect, but interesting nonetheless that I come across while researching was camels. Lots of camels in the United States at one point.
Yeah, it's just history we don't talk about, right?
Right. So they were used in like the West when they were starting to develop the West. They brought in a bunch of camels because the camels could do more in less time than what the horses and mules could.
They could travel further without water.
Yeah,
and they had a natural.
They had a natural sense of where to find water out in the desert.
Yeah,
which was beneficial to both the camel and the people with the camels.
Yeah. They just knew where to look.
And so they were used all in the West during the time that they were like exploring and developing the West.
Putting that railroad track up and all that stuff.
Yeah. But they were also used during the Civil War by the Confederate soldiers.
Okay.
And like there's pictures out there of Confederate soldiers with the camel behind them. Like, who knew? Has
Right.
it always been like that? And we just weren't taught about having all these camels everywhere. Like, I was under the impression that they couldn't even survive in some of the habitats around here.
Well, they got them right down the street. They've had them for years.
Yeah.
Like, got this.
But that's like not naturally and wild.
No,
Like,
they probably put them up,
Yeah.
in the cold and stuff like that. Yeah, you're right. Well, yeah, like they turned them loose, and a lot of them just like travel to Canada, right?
yeah, and then they also had them like causing a lot of havoc on ranches and stuff because they're pretty destructive when they're in their own realm.
Maybe that's why we didn't talk about them.
Maybe not.
Ranchers like, listen, let's get rid of these camels and forget about them, okay? Like this is not ever. I don't ever want to hear anybody ever say anything about a damn
Yeah,
camel
because
again.
they were pretty stinky. They would spit at you. Horses wouldn't even go around them.
They stunk so bad.
Because they stunk so bad, they had to build whole new like stables for the camels separate from the horses.
Horses are racist.
So it just interesting thing that come up while doing the research that I thought was maybe we don't know as much as we think we do.
Right? Yeah. I mean, like history definitely. They're oftentimes not telling us the entire story.
Right.
Whether it's like they're trying to be like.
Deceitful or just leaving it out.
Yeah, hey man, it's just not
Relevant.
It's not relevant, so let's leave it out. Yeah. Okay, man. Is that about it?
Yeah.
We're gonna check out Mushroom Mondays. We're gonna have our first episode. If you're listening to this on Sunday when it comes out, then our first episode will be tomorrow on
Mushrooms in general.
functional mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, stuff like that, and then. Each Monday after that, until we run out of cool mushrooms to talk about, we're going to talk about one specific mushroom and the benefits that it could possibly have. We're not
do a deep dive on individual mushrooms.
We're not medical people. We're just doing research. And we're going to regurgitate information that's already out there to you. That's what we're going to do.
Unless you're not versed on mushrooms at all, and it may be something you can learn.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping it can help somebody out. And I guess that'll wrap that up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us.
Leave us a comment. You can do
Absolutely.
that on Spotify, by the way.
Hey, and rate the show. It doesn't matter if it's 5-star. Be honest. Like if you think this is a 1-star show, then leave us a 1-star review. But any review, I believe, will help. Like the more reviews that we have, the better chances we have of reaching a new audience. So. Thanks for listening. Thanks for any time that you guys ever decided to spend with us where you could have spent it somewhere else. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you want to chime in. But until next time, you guys have a great rest of your day.